Hold it, hold it. What are you doing? Put the clicker down. It's 10:30. It's time for Media Reporter, okay? Law and Order started a half an hour ago, all right? Without a Trace started half an hour ago. You'll never figure it out. You missed House. I'm sorry, it was yesterday. Stay tuned. You'll see something interesting here on Media Reporter.
Good afternoon, my name is Anna Gordonskaya and we're here with Media Reporter. And joining me is Clifford Marion and our guest for today, Nadine Strossen.
I'm very delighted to be here, thank you.
So today we'll be talking about the Supreme Court and I guess President Obama's effect on the Supreme Court coming in the future. A little bit about the case that was decided the other day with the firefighters in New Haven. But first, if we could start off, Sonia Sotomayor, Justice Sonia Sotomayor of the Second Circuit. How do you think her confirmation process is going to go? I believe in September she's going to be going through that. Do you think she will get confirmed? And if you could talk about if there would be a shift on the court at all.
Yeah, well, the hearings are scheduled to start on July 13th, just a couple of weeks from now. And the Supreme Court did something very unusual at the very end of its term earlier this week. It set for rehearing a case it had heard argued this year, a very important case involving free speech rights and limits on free speech rights for corporations, specifically in the campaign finance context, a very divisive issue on the court where it's been ruling 5-4. And the court decided not to resolve that case, but to set it for re-argument 1 month before its term usually starts on September 9th. So it becomes more important than ever for Judge Sotomayor to become Justice Sotomayor in time to participate in that unusually early and extremely important case. I think that given the numbers in the Senate, that it is extremely unlikely that she will not be confirmed, or to eliminate the double negatives, she's probably going to be confirmed quite easily. And not only with a great deal of Democratic support, but I would also expect a lot of Republican support as well for a number of reasons, not the least of which is political, as the first Hispanic nominee to the Supreme Court at a time when that is an increasingly important segment of the populace, and in particular of the politically active populace. I think everybody would have to be careful not to oppose her, just the way many people who disagreed with Clarence Thomas's philosophy ended up supporting him because they didn't want to be accused, as he himself said, of high-tech lynching and invoking notions of racism. Even beyond that, Sotomayor has a very moderate record. I think it would be very hard for somebody to say that she is taking an extreme view of the Constitution or of other issues. She had worked as a prosecutor, so while she's certainly attentive to rights of those who are accused of crime, she's certainly very concerned about public safety, law and order, giving power to prosecutors. On most of the hot-button issues, I think I can strike that and say almost all of the hot-button issues that become real flashpoints in Supreme Court nomination battles, she doesn't have any track record at all. We don't know what her views are on abortion or gay rights or the death penalty or presidential power. She simply has not had the occasion, despite a very long judicial career, to rule on those issues. In that way, it's a little bit similar to the person she has been nominated to succeed, David Souter. When he was nominated, he was described as the stealth candidate. In fairness, he had a much more limited public record. She has a very extensive record, having been on the courts, first as a trial court judge and then as an appellate court judge for many years. But for some reason, by the luck of the draw, she hasn't gotten those hot-button issues and she hasn't written about them extrajudicially. Let me just make one other point, which I know is very familiar but very important, that she's very unlikely to change the ideological balance on the court. She's very likely to fit in exactly where Souter did, as a moderate to liberal, not taking extreme views pro-civil liberties and constitutional rights, but certainly not going in the other direction either. And therefore the court will probably continue to do what it's been doing for a number of years now, 4 to 4 to 1 for so-called conservatives, for so-called liberals, with Anthony Kennedy, the decisive swing vote.
What do you think of the nominee's recent statement about a Spanish woman with experience such as mine could probably make better decisions than a white male?
Right. But first of all, for what it's worth, it wasn't that recent a statement. Secondly, if you read the overall context, I think she makes a very fair point. The overall and she's backpedaled from the extreme implications. The overall context, she's actually quoting a woman who at the time was a professor at Harvard Law School, has recently been named the new dean of Harvard Law School, Martha Minow, a very respected scholar, who made the point that I certainly would agree with, and I'm sure everybody who has seriously studied constitutional law would agree with, that when it comes down to the very hard issues, the ones that get to the Supreme Court, there is no right answer. I mean, sure, the Constitution says that every person should be entitled to equal protection of the laws, but one person's vision of equality can be very different from another person's, or even something like the freedom of speech. One person thinks that it does apply to a banner that says "Bong hits for Jesus," and another one thinks that it doesn't. So I think it was just honest for Professor Minow, who was then quoted by Sotomayor, to say there are no right answers. They're just different perspectives. And if we're honest, we would have to say on these issues, it just comes down to perspectives and choices and judging. And you, by definition, fall back on who you are, what your life experience is, will definitely feed into what those judgments are. If I put her statement in the most positive context, it's to say, on certain issues, my experience will enrich me and make me able to make better judgments than somebody else. And then the corollary is, and somebody else with a different experience from mine would do better on other issues. And interestingly enough, the Association of the Bar of the City of New York just came out with a very detailed report about Sotomayor, a very large percentage of which quotes a speech she gave at New York Law School for the New York Law School Law Review Banquet in the year 2000. I had the honor of inviting her to that. And it was a very big deal that she accepted, even though she was fairly new on the circuit court. She was already very prominent and swamped with invitations, and she told me that she accepts very few because she works very hard on each one. And that, in that speech, which quite frankly I had forgotten exactly what she talked about, I remember thinking was excellent and interesting, but she was talking about her judicial philosophy and how she approaches cases. So it's not surprising that that was such a big focus of this report. That will obviously go into the record before the Senate, so New York Law School and our law review will have an important role to play there. But one of the points that she made was that how important it is to hear cases in panels of 3, and on the Supreme Court it's obviously 9. And she was making precisely that point, that each person brings a different perspective. It's not that any one person has all wisdom and all empathy, and so it's important to have a diversity of views and perspectives and backgrounds and experience represented on the judiciary. So that's, as her lawyer, that would be the way I would interpret that statement. And also, if you look at her record, because many people thought, oh, that just means she's going to be knee-jerk biased in favor of civil rights plaintiffs, minority, people who are suing for job discrimination. And in fact, it's exactly the opposite. Somebody did a numbers count, and she's of something like 88 cases, discrimination cases, since she's been a judge. She voted against the plaintiff 78 times, and for the plaintiff only 10 times. So it certainly doesn't show any kind of bias in how she actually rules on cases.